So in full podcast, we're gonna go on like 3 tangents, right?
Yeah, and we're not gonna have an intro.
Yeah.
So like this will probably be the intro.
Sure.
Yeah.
So the weather?
Yeah. Sunny?
Sunny.
This
Windy.
probably looks horrible on camera.
Windy.
Windy. It is really windy out. It's kind of nice though. It was a little cold.
Yeah. Way colder than yesterday when we were shooting.
Yeah, the shoot. So timeline real quick. I'm gonna be recording this on today's Monday.
Monday, May 19th.
Yes. So yesterday we recorded the
intro,
which
I'll be editing for the rest of my life.
It's gonna take you like 4 days, though. You're gonna be fine.
I still need more footage.
It's true. I forgot about that. And then our first session of recording is gonna be this Friday night.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna upload that session raw. No condoms, no nothing.
We'll raw dog it.
We'll raw dog it and throw it up on Sunday.
Yep.
Along with the one we record on Saturday, and then you'll edit the first session by next Friday. And then we're gonna upload that sometime. We haven't determined.
Friday.
When? Friday.
12.
12?
3. 6. Those are our 3 times.
I like 3. Well, you'll see.
You'll see. You'll see.
You'll see.
You'll know.
You'll know. We don't right now. Doesn't really matter.
You'll figure it out.
We'll have it answered by next Friday.
Shoot was well. Sweaty, hot.
Very hot.
Swords were fun.
Ian did really well.
Ian did good.
You guys won't actually see that until 2 weeks from now.
Yeah.
Unless you put it in the
first edited. It will be in the second edited. So 2 weeks from now.
2 weeks from now. 2.5 weeks from now. You're getting this on Wednesday? It's weird to talk about things that aren't occurring yet.
They're non-linear. It's like the narrative of the game. That'd be hilarious.
That would suck. I'm not doing another non-linear.
Well, our non-linear game was so fun, though.
Was it?
I loved it.
Yeah.
Did you dislike our non-linear game?
It's hard. It's hard to play. Most of it. Whatever.
You think it's hard to play? It's hard to run.
Shut up. We're talking about magic and items and spells and also homebrewing in general.
Yeah, homebrewing.
Because we homebrew our games to shit and back. We're talking about homebrewing. We're talking about making things for your world, for your players, for your monsters, and we're going to make it so that things happen. And all of the ones I have today are connected to Grant's world because I get to make things that he uses, and most of the time he likes them. Sometimes he doesn't. Most of the time he does. And then you're going to show off a couple monsters.
Yes.
A couple might be one.
I have an item.
You do have an item. I forgot about that.
You've disproven of the item. I have multiple items.
How about, I'll start with something I made a couple months ago that is a species in Grant's world. Because Grant looked at me and said, you know it exists, but doesn't really exist because it's only on one thing in D&D Beyond and it's not even official. A species with plant as its creature type. And I think that's good. I think it's cool, and Grant has a pretty good lore for it. Can you explain the lore for them really quick?
The lore for the Pinethians?
Yes.
So, in my world, the Feywild and the Shadowfell are once were identical to the material plane, and then a magical event happened. And this magical event happened because the Pine Barrens, which is now known as the Shadowfell, was ruled by the Pinethians. And then an invading army led by Tiamat didn't like that, so she transferred the sun from being in the atmosphere for the Pine Barrens into being in the Feywild, and got rid of the sun, and then the Pinethians couldn't live because the sun was gone, and their plants. Photosynthesis.
Still exists. So, the Pinethians are a thing I made based off of what Grant told me. Because vibes.
Like everything that you make.
Like most things I make. So, they're plants. They don't breathe air. They breathe carbon dioxide. If carbon dioxide exists, they don't breathe air. They don't breathe regular air. And I went through the idea that if they sat in direct sunlight, they could get enough food for a long rest. Because they can still consume energy, like how a plant gets energy through its roots, but it still needs to get food from the sun. And they don't fall asleep. How would a plant fall asleep? Exactly. They have the ability to cast Speak with Plants. It's a very useful spell. It's kind of high level. at the level you get it at, which is 1, but who cares? It's barely useful unless it's really useful. And then at level 3, they get to choose an ability that bolsters them. I decided to base this on how, like, tieflings and elves get different abilities at different levels. So one of them gives you magic, like Spike Growth and Spirit Guardians. One of them gives you the ability to attack better with extending your limbs, similar to, like, Groot and Guardians of the Galaxy. And then one of them gives you the ability to increase your speed and give yourself some temp HP, along with, I called it Flow. Because plants move energy around with Floem, along with a different thing. And that means that they have the ability to take a short rest quicker by kind of boosting their energy. I gave them Common, Druidic, and another language. And there's a difference in if you are based more on trees or if you're based more on, like, shrubbery, where you have the ability to have a stronger body, like an armor, or if you have the ability to cast Goodberry and some niche healing abilities. I don't know if you've ever really tried making a species before, but it's a lot of nuance to make it fit and also not broken. And I think a lot of people need to just understand that, like, as long as you're talking to your players and you're giving them these options, they don't have to choose them. But if they want to choose them, that's because they find it interesting. So you need to make it unique and interesting.
Yeah, whenever I want to make a species, I just have you make it.
That's fair.
It's really easy.
How many of them have been used?
Like, how many of them have been used by players?
2?
No one's played an Aldani yet.
No. Why would they?
They should. You should.
No.
I don't know. You worship them. That's a weird inside joke that no one's gonna get. Robin worships crustaceans. It's canon. It's canon.
It's not.
It's a canon event.
It seems to be getting cut out of this story.
No, it's not. The Pinethians have not been used. The Men of the Wasteland were almost used, and the Nara have been used.
Yes. One of the Nara.
One of the Nara. One of the 3 Nara.
The other 2 are interesting.
I made one of the Nara.
You did.
All on my own.
You made most of them on your own, actually. I just edited them.
I was bleeding out my ass. Hey, I couldn't sleep because I was bleeding out my ass because I had a hemorrhoid at the age of 20. Great for me. I was also failing a class, and instead of doing that, I did this, and I will never regret that decision. I ended with a C. I got a passing grade.
You passed. I mean, sometimes you got to make the right decision. That's the main goal of today. Make the right decision for your players. And if that means making a thing they barely use in one thing
while bleeding out your
ass and getting a C in a class, it's worth it.
No, it's not. This is bad advice.
Because they used it.
No, it's not. This is bad advice, Robin. Sacrifice everything you care about for your players.
Just do it. Don't worry about anything else.
You don't get to keep any of your morals. None of that's yours.
So as mentioned, there's also the Nara, which have different components, and Grant made half of them, and then I fixed it. The Nara are based on 3rd edition? 2nd edition?
2nd, 3rd, and 4th.
2nd, 3rd, and 4th edition. Right. And they're glass creatures, and Grant has them connected to his world, which... Go watch the Day of White Skies video. A cube explodes, the cube is full of souls, the souls are glass people. They all have a hive mind, right?
Yeah, hive mind.
Yep, and they all can change form, or some of them can change form?
Some of them can change form.
Alright.
Some of them are made of mud. Yeah.
Anyway, a couple of abilities there that I think are important is the Shattered ability, which goes through becoming bloodied. And when you become bloodied, your body changes, and you gain a couple of good abilities, along with a lack of being able to move through mirrors, a different ability they have. It's a weird balance. It's hard to balance. Is it balanced?
No.
No, probably not. But also, like, you can't really be... You can't teleport through mirrors. You can't pretend to be a different creature. So you lose a lot of your abilities when you shatter, so it's not very good for you. But then you gain an unarmed strike that does an incredible amount of damage. And is a finesse weapon. So it's pretty good. The most important part of trying to make a species is figuring out what niches exist and what you can pull on. A lot of sub-races and variants, those are fun to make because they're just different parts of a similar creature. But when you're making your own creature, it's more important to focus on what it does that other people don't. So mixing together multiple people's abilities or having completely unique abilities.
Time for my rant. There are too many furry races in D&D. We do not need any more. That niche has been filled. I do not need another race that's just a humanoid fox, a humanoid dog, a humanoid bear, humanoid bug. I don't need it. I have plenty of it's a person, but it's an animal. That niche has been filled. We need no more furry races. I love furries. Furries are great. They're cool people. I've played D&D with a lot of furries. But stop making furry races for D&D.
Anyway, don't be afraid of making species, but they are kind of hard to make. You just have to balance it, and it's okay if you don't. It's okay to make variants too, or sub-races instead of trying to make your own stuff. They're not very important. People like what they like. So, done with species here. Now we're looking at, do you want to go into magic items?
Okay, I do magic items based almost purely on vibes. I don't think I've written down a magic item in years.
Yeah,
so we've got
explain that, yeah.
We got the magic cane.
So what is the magic cane? You can't just say that.
So I was on a road trip, a bus trip in high school with Braxton, the person playing the Dark Phoenix. And he bought this at a gas station. Made a magic item out of cane. In my world, I have gems tied to planes. White one is tied to the seven heavens. And it has the ability to bring things to life and bring the dragon that makes up the handle to life. So it can summon a dragon relative to your level. If you're less than 15, it's going to be a youngling. Wormling. It's a Jedi youngling.
It's a Jedi youngling. Not for long.
It needs to fear Anakin Skywalker. But other than that, it can also, if used properly by a high-level magic user, and you have to know it can do this and be practicing to do this, it can bring things to life, including a windmill, a church, and a suit of armor so far.
This item was very useful for the overcomers as they overcame Tiamat.
They overcame.
And then it got lost to time. Then Godric got it through probably buying it, I guess, right? Because it got gambled. Is Courier still alive?
Watch the prologue to Labyrinth and Cataclysm to find out, is the Courier still alive?
A magic item I made almost exclusively for this event to just show off that the best way of making magic items is figuring out what exists and what niche you want to fill. Was a thing for your world, specifically for the leader of the Purple Dragon Knights. Name unrelated name to anything specific that may exist in the Forgotten Realms.
Unrelated
to anything else that may occur based on a purple dragon.
So it's not even based on a purple dragon in the Forgotten Realms.
Sort of.
It's a black dragon that looked purple in the light.
Yeah. So explain Polyphemus for a second.
Okay. So Tiamat. Okay, so Tiamat has a daughter named Zariel. Mm-hmm. Zariel predates Zariel the angel. The dragon is very old and still alive. It's scary. Zariel has a daughter named Exithmasil. Exithmasil marries Boris, a banned red dragon from the line of Invierno. Gets banned to the Three Islands, lives there alone, gets joined by Exithmasil. Exithmasil falls in love with a man named Derek Draco who has a little bit of giant's blood in him, creates Jericho Draco who becomes an overcomer. Jericho Draco also fucks the dragon. That's unrelated. Boris and the dragon procreate, creating a never named dragon officially, because the mother died in childbirth, giving birth to this weird mutant of a purple dragon, and the red dragon was killed soon after by the Overcomers. So, long known simply as Jericho's sister, the dragon fled underground and became a menace to the Underdark, gaining the name the One-Eyed, One-Horned, Flying Purple People Eater after being injured in a few fights. Soon, an adventuring party with no name that would soon have having a civil war came across this dragon, named it Polyphemus. It liked the name, and the name stuck. And then survivors of this war that was started by the adventuring party joined the dragon to form the Purple Dragon Knights.
And they use this purple dragon's notably plasma breath, a mix of the lightning and the flames to make an even hotter thing. And living where they do, are able to get access to materials, melt it down, and smith it into white-hot metal that can reactivate the purple dragon's abilities. Like the main weapon of the purple dragon leader. Not the purple dragon itself, but the leader of the purple dragon knights following the purple dragon, which is the purple dragon's Aegis. And this shield fits a niche that I think is cool, which is attacking people with shields. A lot of people have done it before, and there's a couple official ones that do that as well. But this one's special because it's also a Vorpal weapon, because why not? So it's got spikes on it, and you can bash into people, and if you roll a 20 on your die, you cut their head off. You can also do some lightning or fire damage with it. Very cool, very good, and I think it's a good representation of the fact that you can kind of just throw things together and make something good. And if your players like it, then it's good. Lower level magic items obviously they're harder to make because you have to balance them. Ooh, balancing.
Doesn't exist. Doesn't matter in this game. It doesn't matter in this game. It doesn't matter. Balance. Who needs balance? We're very different teams.
Very different. But it's a very useful weapon. It's very useful defensively, and it's a good balance for both. Yeah, so if you're looking to make magic items, it's completely okay to just steal other people's stuff, or better yet, just say what you want it to do and then talk to your players about how it works so that everyone has a good understanding of it, and then determine the rules later once it becomes, used in battle and stuff. Like the Dragon Cane or some of the magical gems that you give out in your world.
Yeah.
Which may or may not show up in Labyrinth of Cataclysm. They probably won't. They might. I don't know. I'm not running it. He's running it. He's just smiling at me. Smile at the camera. So I don't know. They might show up. They might not. So moving on to subclasses.
No!
I dated you.
No!
Subclasses are something I don't think Grant you really worked on at all.
I hate players.
Yeah, so he's not really a player, so it's not something he really worries about. But subclasses are very useful, and they're good ways of meshing people together so they can get more of the niche they're looking for. If you're looking for subclasses that I've made,
we'll sell them eventually.
Or you can get the free ones that I've uploaded on our Dragon Week video from a couple weeks ago.
We have other ones.
I have other ones I've made as well, which I'm not publishing. One of them I made for the Dark Phoenix, and is based on... Okay, let me be more specific. I made it for the Dark Phoenix to use in their backstory, but the Dark Phoenix doesn't actually use this subclass.
Woo!
Why did I make it? Vibes. Most of the things I made are vibes.
I'll make enemies with it.
That's fair. It's a paladin, so you're not gonna have fun, or you will have fun.
I love playing paladins.
That's fair. So you'll have a lot of fun then.
Paladins are great.
It's a Dark Phoenix oath. It's an oath of bringing renewal in the world through destruction. It's very similar to the Oath of the Dusk Phoenix from the UA. I don't remember which UA that was. It's in one of them. But, nevertheless, it's got a whole bunch of, healing and fire damage and stuff. And then there's all the ones I made for There's the other ones I made for Dragon Week. Obviously, all of them are based on dragons, and a lot of the importance of it is looking into what the game says when things are used and looking at what these classes are based on. You kind of get a feel for it the more you play with them, and eventually you're able to make subclasses based on the fact that you use, a barbarian's rage modifier or stuff like that for them, and all these little trinkets that you're able to pull together to base new abilities on. But going into them, you just need to have an idea of what you want to do. You want to have a vibe, you want to have something you can make. Because if you don't, you're just making nothing, and it's fun to make stuff for the power gamers, but I like myself a lot of deep roleplay with strong, interesting balance. Speaking of not balancing your encounters, monsters!
It's my turn to speak.
Who do you want to show the class?
First, I want to say, just reskin monsters. It's very easy. I ran entire encounters with reskin monsters, and no one was the wiser. But the thing that's most important is descriptions. You can change absolutely nothing. And as long as you describe them completely differently, you can turn a man into a demon and no one will know. I've done it multiple times. In both D&D and real life.
So on that note, it's important to also think about what monsters do and what vibes you want to give them. Because I've reskinned a couple where you just give them a new ability that fits their vibe, and then that one thing can be their centerpiece, and if you base it on that, nobody will know that you're playing a champion with the ability to teleport, because you're describing it in a way where it's way more interesting.
Yeah. But I have just played a champion, and they used to reflavor the sword attack to be a slashing attack, and there's no real way to tell the difference.
Yeah.
As long as you describe it well.
As long as you're describing it and you're vivid, and people love a vivid, interesting combat. They get to experience it, and people are willing to think about this, and people love knowing that they don't know what's going into it, even if they should know, but they don't because you're telling them they don't, which is a fun way of doing this.
Yeah.
There's also a couple of factors that I can't really explain at the moment, like dice math and what the DMG...
We can explain dice math.
You think we can explain dice math?
I can explain my version of dice math.
I'm interested in what your version of dice math is.
Okay, so you have a DPS damage per round of both the players and the monsters. The DPS damage per round is just the average damage. It's written into the books that a monster does per round. You sometimes, if it has multi-attack, you have to add that all in, but it's really easy to figure out. And then what you want to do to have a thrilling encounter is make sure that the monster's DPS is not greater than the and its health gets them close to being dead but not actually dead. And then also you want to know what your player's DPS is, which is harder to figure out because they have a lot wider range of DPS, and because spellcasters exist,
and of course,
and they ruin everything.
Situations where there's things like people choosing to do things in a combat that isn't damaging or isn't forwarding just the straight math, but instead is trying to get some other goal to occur, which buys you time to catch up in dice math. Also,
like Matthew Colville always says, the encounter design does not end when you roll initiative. It's going all the way through. Touch up hit points as you need to. Touch point damage dice as you need to.
Yeah, a good note is that a monster stat block is not
never
the end all be all. If you're in a combat and you are wiping them,
keep doing it. It's fun.
But maybe make the guy's HP a little lower, so he's just a glass cannon, and they didn't figure that out until they killed him.
Yeah. Or kill your players.
Or describe that he's a glass cannon beforehand, lower his HP to whatever you need to during the combat, and still make it threatening because they know that they might just get wiped if they roll a nat 1 and miss their attack.
I recently did dice math where I just wrote "oh fuck" on it, so that was fun.
It's a good type of math.
It's a good type.
The math where you don't need to do it because you're looking at it and you're like,
so 100 minus 500. Yeah, they're fucked.
Ooh.
Hey.
Anyway,
They won.
They won.
Yeah,
How'd they do that?
I was good at running the game.
Yeah.
And the bad guys slowly killed themselves.
Oh, there was infighting.
No, not infighting. Just poor use of area effect spells.
Ah.
Bad guys do not have to be smart to feel threatening.
And bad guys don't have to be dumb to be non-threatening.
Yeah. He's quiet.
Do you want to join?
No, this can't.
Nah, he can just be in the background.
Okay, so pull up a chair. My brother has arrived.
Yeah.
He's on the floor.
He's probably not. You might go.
Get up. Okay, I'll grab a chair.
Okay, I'm gonna make a statement right now so that I can leave this in. Jackson has walked on set because set is his basement. And I've invited him to watch. So he's gonna not say anything and then breathe really hard.
If he's going to do that, he should leave. He can chime in. Here, let me open Sir Cruel before we
Anyway,
go on.
so so that's why in the middle of our circle speech, Jackson's showing up.
Yeah.
So is there any stat block specifically you were thinking of showing off?
I might. You have Sir Cruel.
I do. So okay.
Showcase
So
Sir Cruel. So
give us a quick synopsis on who Sir Cruel
Sir
is.
Cruel was the main bad guy of the last game I ran.
Wasn't there a Tarrasque in the last game you ran?
Okay, the Tarrasque was not the main bad guy. He just happened to appear at the end. That makes it sound more random than it was. Sir Cruel is the main bad guy. He's the leader. He might not be the strongest bad guy that showed up.
Okay.
He also didn't die by the end. The people just attacked the Tarrasque early. They shouldn't have needed to at all, but it did work out in their favor. But anyway, Sir Cruel is a member of the Men of the Wasteland, but because he's a monster stat block and not a Man of the Wasteland, he gets to be weird and cool. All Men of the Wasteland are weird and cool. You should play one when we make it public.
Yeah, we haven't made it. You can't play one.
Play one!
You don't get to. Also, it's just like a Simic hybrid, so just play a Simic
Just play a Simic hybrid.
They're cool.
They're cool.
We just made them broken instead of making them
better. We made them more broken, and they were already broken.
Yeah. That's kind of
That's a trend of ours.
Yeah. Anyway, what did you do that was cool?
So
Sir Cruel?
Sir Cruel, to pull up his stats real quick. I don't open anything ahead of time. But Sir Cruel, he was Man of the Wasteland, so he was a demon person. And he had access to a bunch of demon things, but on the outside he was just a ridiculously big, sort of mutated two-headed man with a big sword and some punches. And I like the Matthew Colville thought process to make monster stat blocks difficult to fight. Or not difficult to fight, thrilling to fight, where they just need to act as much as possible. Right? Like if the perfect round of combat is a player fights, the DM does something, a player fights, the DM does something, a player does something, the DM does something. That's in my mind the most entertaining for both the DM and the players. Because the players are always being impacted when the DM's doing something. But Sir Cruel had legendary actions, reactions, bloodied actions, bonus actions. He was just always doing things. And they all fit into his character of being this, corrupted warlord political figure. So he was loosely based on a pirate captain. He's a CR10.
Okay.
He's got a multi-attack where he either punches, uses a heavy crossbow, or uses Dark Sister, which is his sword.
Yep.
His sword is made out of void steel, which is a unique thing in my world. So it does regular greatsword damage plus 2d8 necrotic damage. He has a heavy crossbow, which is regular, and then he has a punch, which is 1d10 plus 3 bludgeoning damage, but also it pushes people around, because that's a fun thing to do in an encounter. It's a DC 18 strength saving throw, or be pushed back 15 feet. And then his bonus action is Captain's Charm, where any creature within 30 feet of him gets the charmed condition. And then he has 3 reactions, which is Riposte, where he just boosts his AC and then makes an attack. Parry, where he boosts his AC more and doesn't make an attack. And Sadistic Opportunist, which happens whenever a creature near Sir Cruel is brought to 0 hit points or bloodied, and Sir Cruel runs up to them and stabs them immediately. I never got to use this during an encounter, and it makes me mad, because that'd be so funny. You get murdered, and then you immediately get murdered more.
Because,
He's mean.
yeah,
He's a sadistic opportunist.
That makes sense.
If-
And then I'm noticing a mythic action down there.
So he also has mythic actions. He's a demon person. So once you kill him, he comes back to life. And then he has more legendary actions. He has 2 legendary actions in his second phase, being either a bite attack or a claw attack.
Yeah.
How, like, when he comes back to life, is he at full health, or?
Yeah, he comes back at full health.
Oh.
So it says he has 72 HP. Actually, has 144.
Yeah. And theoretically, this second life isn't the end. It's just the end of him being able to fight you, really.
Yeah. And then he goes back and gets reborn again.
Yeah.
None of the wastelands are funny.
If you guys haven't noticed, this man is a crazy person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of editing around a lot of crazy things, and for some reason, this is the one I'm keeping in. So.
There's nothing crazy about this.
So besides a couple of final bosses I've made, my general idea with monsters is just the reskin strat, which I do with, infected creatures when I was running a disease campaign, and some sorcerers and some wizards, because the psychic damage on a lot of official stat blocks isn't great. But I also have my final boss stat block, which has legendary actions and legendary resistances and spells and once per day uses. And I gave it... An important thing to note is, again, just reinforcing it, it's not over when you start the battle. I decided halfway through to make it that there was a whole phase around this guy, which isn't even in his stat block. But instead occurred in the game, where I just had some numbers down, I had some enemies they were fighting, and once they beat all those enemies, they got the ability to start attacking this guy. Where if they attacked him normally, instead what would be occurring is that everyone else, all of the things around him would take damage. He also has True Sight because I'm an asshole. He has the ability to summon people with a lair action because I like lair actions. Very simple situation, very good situation. I am a big fan of the idea of lair actions and overpowering your, I'm not going to question it, overpowering your players with a creature, but giving them enough magic and enough power to eventually whittle their way back up. I think we also play D&D a little differently, where, if you haven't noticed, Revivify is a common spell in our D&D parties.
It's necessary.
As in, if you're over level 10 and you don't have Revivify, you're going to lose. I gave my guy Power Word Kill.
It's fun. It's fun. It's fine.
So, it looks like you brought something up from Pointy Hat.
So Pointy Hat created battlefield actions, and I love this idea. Again, Sir Cruel didn't have one because he was going more in the Matthew Colville line of thinking. But I like battlefield actions as another way to make boss monsters feel like boss monsters, where you telegraph that you're going to do something in a certain area, and then everyone has a full round to get out of that area before something bad happens there. I gave it to a whole bunch of cultists in the last campaign I ran, where they would create a circle, and then you had to move to the inside of their circle, and if you were on the outside of the circle, you would get eaten by a giant ethereal snake. But what the party did was they were able to survive the snake blast, and all the people who knew the snake were coming went to the middle and got fireballed to death.
Because if you incentivize all of your creatures to be in one area, and then your wizard looks over and goes, fireball? Your guys stop being in that area.
Yeah. Although the fireball was cast using gun.
I'm not going to touch on that.
I'm not explaining that.
I'm not touching on that. I think battlefield actions are really cool. I think lair actions are cool, but I think lair actions are cooler if you're running a dungeon or if you're teleporting your enemies into it so that, you're teleporting your players into it so they can't really, leave. Because often, a lot of times, a good strategy for people with traditional lair actions is to just bait them out of the thing. And then, in that situation, your party just kind of sits there and waits until you do something. and that can slow down the pace of the game, and you can have a conversation with them or figure out how you want to do it. My best situation most of the time is lair actions that teleport people, because I love teleporting people.
Moving people around the
Moving
board.
people around the board is great. Lairs are meant to be cool battlefields, not traditional Cave 3. You make an area, you make cliffs, you make hiding spots, you make things that your guy uses better, and they make things for your players to use. You make good things. You balance your stuff well. And I think monsters are really hard, but really fun to do well. And traditional D&D, I don't know if this is true, but you hear so much about D&D being a slow, bad game in combat where the only fun part's roleplay.
I've never felt that. I hate it when I hear people say that. I get that everyone's game is different, and I'm always running, so maybe that's on me.
So basically, for my final boss, because I've listened to these guys talking about theirs, like, my final boss I ran for one of my campaigns was very interesting, because I didn't even make him a stat block. Because his health was basically just a commoner, and his whole thing wasn't special. It was the stuff that he was operating and moving around, like mechs and different kind of mechanical things. So I didn't even have a stat block. All I had was a health number for the guy. And the entire like main antagonist of the thing wasn't even the final boss. It was the curse inside of the final boss that jumped around to all the different players, which helped them move around the map.
They had to fight each other.
Because they had to fight each other, so they weren't paying attention to the guy that only had like 10 hit points. That was the final boss.
Yeah, I watched that fight. It was actually really good.
I didn't watch that fight, and if I did, I have a terrible memory.
You weren't there.
Yeah,
were
that's
not
what
there.
I thought. It sounds good, though. I really like... Maybe that's another thing is we can touch on real quick is... What do you call them? Witcher-style bosses?
So Witcher-style boss fights, you can find a lot of information about this on YouTube. But the idea is, I'm just trying to use the Shim Sham as an example.
What's the Shim Sham? What's the Shim Sham?
So the Shim Sham in my world, it's based off of a thing from Candle Keep, but I never pronounced it correctly, and now it's just called the Shim Sham. But I've basically changed it enough. But in that book, the Shim Sham can only be killed. I'm not learning how to pronounce its real name. The Shim Sham can only be killed if something of 500 pounds or more crushes it. You can get it to 0 hit points as much as you want, but it has to be brought to 0 hit points by being crushed by 500 pounds of something to die. And I think that's really cool.
So this is basically like I think the best way of thinking about them is puzzle combats, like Jackson just
puzzle
described,
combats.
where the idea is, yes, you're playing D&D in initiative, but you're finding out a gimmick, which means the DM's explaining all this stuff and role-playing it all out so that everybody's starting to pick up what's happening. And then the fun part of it is once you hit the nail, once you put the tail on the horse and you get done and you've finished it, and now you know what you need to do, and all you have to do is execute. Because a DM can run it really well. The idea here is that you're taking an important item or effect or curse or whatever and making that the thing they figure out. And then the after effect is them doing the combat afterwards or lining up that, stone pillar that you put suspiciously near the map where now they push it over, the ghost gets crushed, and now it's gone.
That's a very specific example. Also, you can do it with more generalized, if you want to make like a less extreme example of a Witcher-style monster, just give it a few immunities, a lot of resistances, and one immunity. One vulnerability. Because then it's like... Right, it gets you in that situation of needing to figure out how to kill it, and once you know, you'll kill it quickly.
And make sure that either your party is able to figure it out before the fight, or your party has the ability to, while fighting it, use that.
Yeah.
Because you can't just step it up in a, 2014 werewolf situation. You throw it against a low-level party, there's a cleric doing 1d8 damage per turn, and the werewolf just kills everybody else because it can't take damage.
Yeah.
But you tell of the tales of the werewolf, they silver their weapons. That solves the problem. Other examples I've seen are having devils only get killed once they take radiant damage during the last turn. The archhags, it's not called antithesis, but I can't remember. They respawn unless they have a thing the thing they hate the most near them.
Liches and their
Liches, the
phylacteries.
phylactery. You can do this with low-level creatures very easily, but most people do this with
It's
high
iconic
level.
with high level. Again, right? Like all of these work down, but they're also they're most useful when being used to beef up heavy hitter monsters. Because like a Tarask is like the definition of a boring fight unless you run it correctly.
Right, give a Tarask a couple resistances, give a Tarask a couple vulnerabilities, and immediately becomes a more interesting fight as long as you run it well. Now, if you make it weak to psychic damage and then none of your party has psychic damage, you never tell them to find things with psychic damage. You've made the key an impossible shape, and they have to go smith it.
Yeah.
And that's not fun. Okay, so this is the intro to feats. So, feats are important, and I think feats are the best way of giving marshals and giving people powers that are uber specific to whatever they do. Making homebrewed feats is super easy because they can kind of do whatever as long as they're balanced at 4th level. And you can make them increase in power based on proficiency bonus or any stat that you choose to increase. Most of them increase stats. Just an example I have is the Dark Flames feat I also made for the Dark Phoenix, which lets you change fire damage into necrotic and radiant damage into necrotic, and then gives you a couple of spells. Is it broken? I don't know. It's kind of hard to know if changing fire damage into necrotic's good. It's definitely better than changing radiant into necrotic.
Wait. Their damage, their output, or damage input?
So damage you deal turns into a different damage type.
Okay.
Obviously for fire, that's just like now my fire hurts fire elementals. Cool. But other than that, it's not super interesting. Yeah. So that's feats. All right. So we're gonna be wrapping this up. Thank you for joining me. Thanks for being here.
Watch Labyrinth and Cataclysm. This guy makes all the battle maps, and he lives here.
Yes, I live here. I'm in your walls!
I'm also in the walls. They can't make me leave.
I live on set, literally.
Well, you'll see on Labyrinth the Cataclysm episode 1 or 2 or 53. We don't know. So this is probably the worst video you've ever watched. I'm sorry about that. Go read a book. Go watch other people that are better than us. And
books
watch us as well.
Have a great day. See everyone later.
Yeah.
Bye!